I'm looking for food for mom who can't move.
A 5-year-old granddaughter rummaging through the park's trash cans. When I saw her after 6 months, she was thin and wearing tattered clothes.
Mom is sleeping at home. There's nothing to eat.
It's been 6 months since my son started working away from home. What happened to my daughter-in-law and granddaughter while I was unaware? I regretted becoming distant from my daughter-in-law out of consideration. Taking my granddaughter's hand and saying, "It's okay now," she showed a smile.
Really? Will you help mom?
We immediately headed to my son's house. However, there was a shocking truth hidden there. 3 years have passed since my husband passed away at the age of 55, and I've been living alone, feeling lonely. My sister lives nearby, which has been some consolation. My son, John, who is turning 30, lives with his wife and child about a 30-minute drive away. Actually, I worried because after graduating from college, there was a period when John didn't work. He was doing a part-time job while getting deeply into his hobby of touring on his motorcycle.
I want to enjoy life. Traveling on my motorcycle, seeing sights, it's the best. I don't want to work.
Watching my son say such things, I couldn't help but feel anxious. However, a few years later, he finally found a job and got married, which relieved me. But John's habit of playing around didn't seem to change, causing worries for his wife, Kate. Kate, 2 years younger than my son, was lively and cheerful, and I liked her immediately. Soon after getting married, my granddaughter Mary was born, and I was completely overjoyed. Kate, I've bought diapers and milk for Mary.
Oh, thank you. It's messy inside the house, but please come in.
It's okay. I'll tidy up. Kate, you just relax. Since her parents couldn't help her being far away, I frequently visited my son's house, bringing baby essentials and household items for my daughter-in-law. I did my best, cleaning up, comforting crying Mary, and more. My actions were driven by the desire to see my granddaughter and the goodwill to help my daughter-in-law, but it seemed they were pressuring her. Caught up in the cuteness of my granddaughter, I didn't realize this. One day, when I visited my son's house, there was no response no matter how many times I rang the doorbell. Did they go shopping? Deciding to come back later, I was about to leave the bag of toys for Mary's birthday present on the doorstep when I heard my granddaughter's cries from inside. Worried, I tried to peek through the window, but when the crying stopped, I quietly backed away. It was then that I realized, for the first time, how much my daughter-in-law disliked me, using the excuse of not being home. Despite the shock, I sent a text to my daughter-in-law letting her know I left the present. I see. I'm just her mother-in-law, so she can't relax. Even though I understood it logically, I couldn't help but feel immensely sad. And to make matters worse, something happened that added to my distress. That night, my son visited home with a stern expression. There were 2 matters he needed to tell me, both of which were painful for me.
Mom, I've been transferred to another state for work, so I'll be working away from home.
Really? We won't be able to see each other like before. I'll miss you. As the location was inconvenient for family life, he decided to go alone, leaving his family here. I was shocked, but my son's expression was grim. I wondered why, but his next words revealed the reason.
And, I hate to say this, but could you please stop bothering Kate already?
Huh? What do you mean?
Bringing household items is fine, but seriously, lay off Kate. Bullying your daughter-in-law isn't cool these days. I never thought you could be such a jerk.
I denied any malicious intent, but my son grew more forceful.
You've been frequently peeking into the house, passive-aggressively cleaning, and comforting the baby, right?
Well,
Kate was crying because of you. Don't be so cruel.
I didn't mean to. I didn't realize. I'm sorry. I thought I was doing the right thing, but it seems it was excruciating for my daughter-in-law. I apologized to my son, but he wouldn't forgive me.
If you keep harassing her, I'll cut ties with you, Mom.
No way. John slammed the front door shut and left. At that moment, memories of my son's childhood flashed through my mind. He was mischievous and demanding, but I always raised him with all my love. Next, I thought of the adorable face of my granddaughter Mary. Feeling guilty for hurting my daughter-in-law, I called her. Kate, I'm sorry. I'll be more careful from now on.
Did John say something? I'm sorry. I'm overwhelmed.
No, it's my fault. I'll make sure to ask before coming over from now on. However, Kate remained silent and didn't respond. Maybe she wanted to tell me not to come to her home. After that, John didn't say anything to me and seemed to head to his new assignment. Later on, I tried to contact my daughter-in-law to arrange bringing gifts for my granddaughter's birthday, but her responses were lukewarm. She often asked for items to be sent via delivery because she was busy. However, one day, Kate unusually called me. When I encouraged her to speak, she said, tearfully,
Actually, we're short on money.
Worried that my son's bad habits might be showing, I asked to meet her and discuss things at a cafe. Kate arrived alone, having left Mary with a friend. Her expression was very somber. According to her, since John started his solo assignment, he stopped sending money for living expenses. Then, she dropped an even more shocking bombshell.
John seems to be having an affair.
What? Kate continued.
When I was video calling him, I saw women's clothes hanging on the wall in his room.
When I said I would ask my son about this, Kate choked up, saying,
I don't want to break up with him. I believe he'll come back to me.
Feeling sorry for my hopeless son, I apologized to Kate. Kate then made a request, saying,
I've started working part-time, but it's not enough. Could you send me $500 each month?
Despite Kate's hesitance, it was all John's responsibility. I agreed without hesitation. Kate added,
Also, I'm overwhelmed with work and can't clean the house properly. I don't want you to see it.
I understand. Don't worry, I won't just drop by unexpectedly. Anticipating Kate's difficulty in saying it, I responded kindly with a smile. But what is my son thinking? Kate asked me not to tell John, but as a mother, I couldn't refrain from giving him my opinion. After parting ways with Kate and returning home, I called John that night. I subtly asked if he was cheating, but he seemed irritated and angry.
Hey, Mom! Don't bother me with such trivial things.
John, clearly frustrated from work, didn't outright deny cheating, so my anxiety only grew. After that, various expenses such as clothing for my granddaughter and medical bills when she fell ill started piling up, and Kate began coming to me for money. By this time, I couldn't see my granddaughter at all, but I believed it was all for the sake of dear Mary and my unfortunate daughter-in-law. So, I continued to provide money from my husband's inheritance and send allowances. Even when my son occasionally returned from his solo assignment, he never came to see me, only insisting over the phone.
I'm so busy. Be nicer to Kate.
I was torn apart, feeling lonely without being able to see my son, but I started dreaming of sweet Mary more often. Still, I convinced myself that as long as my granddaughter was living happily, it was enough. But looking back now, I should have gone to see my granddaughter. At that time, I never could have imagined things would turn out like that. It was a spring day, nearly a year into my son's solo assignment. My sister, who lives nearby, invited me to a cherry blossom viewing spot near my son's house. She was worried about my mood, but the sight of the cherry blossoms in full bloom lifted my spirits a bit. However, what caught my eye then was a small child rummaging through the trash can in the park. Concerned that the child might be alone, I approached. When the child looked up and our eyes met, I blinked and looked again in disbelief. What? No way. The child was none other than my granddaughter Mary, whom I had seen only in dreams. She should have been 5 years old by now. Mary, is that you? What are you doing here?
I'm looking for food for Mom who can't move.
It had been a year since I last saw my granddaughter, and she looked emaciated, her collarbones visible, wearing tattered clothes with torn pants. The Mary the first knew had chubby cheeks and a cute face, so I was shocked by her drastically changed appearance. Where is Mom?
She's sleeping at home. There's nothing to eat, Dad took all the money from home.
It seemed that something had happened to my daughter-in-law and granddaughter while I was unaware. I regretted becoming distant from them out of consideration for Kate, waiting for her to reach out. I immediately approached my granddaughter and hugged her. Everything will be okay now that Grandma's here.
Really? Will you help Mom?
My eyes welled up at the thought of my granddaughter, who was always thinking of her mother, and anger toward my son made me feel feverish. However, despite my emotions, a shocking truth was hidden there. I explained the situation to my sister briefly, and went to my son's house with my granddaughter. I rang the doorbell, but my daughter-in-law didn't answer. Since the front door was locked, I couldn't do anything and felt at a loss. Then Mary said,
Wait a moment. There's a secret entrance.
And slipped in through a small window at the back of the house. Later, after Mary opened the door from the inside, I rushed into the living room. However, my daughter-in-law was nowhere to be found. The interior was terribly dirty, with half-eaten cup noodles and empty beer cans scattered around.
Mommy disappeared. I wonder where she went,
said Mary. Leave it to Grandma. Everything will be okay. I reassured the anxious granddaughter and, as a precaution, left a note in the mailbox saying taking Mary home and headed back to my house. Back home, I gave Mary a shower and changed her into new underwear and clothes I had prepared to give her as presents. Despite being thin, she looked adorable after I combed her hair neatly. When I made omelets, Mary's eyes sparkled, and she eagerly started eating, exclaiming, "Delicious!" She must have been very hungry. After the meal, she told me that her immobile mother had asked her to go find food. If that was the case, then where has Kate gone? I felt like I'd been had. Could it be? Kate's condition suddenly worsened. I thought she might have called an ambulance herself and been taken to a hospital somewhere. I tried calling my son, but couldn't reach him. Meanwhile, my granddaughter, now full, started to doze off. I quickly prepared a bed for her, and she was overjoyed.
Wow! The bed is so fluffy. It feels amazing,
she exclaimed before quickly falling asleep. Worried about my daughter-in-law, I called my sister, who lives nearby, and asked her to look after my granddaughter while I headed back to my son's house. What I saw there was a shocking sight. Is that Kate? As I hid in the shadow of the neighboring house to observe Kate without being spotted, an elderly neighbor approached me. We had exchanged greetings when my son and his wife moved in, so we were acquainted. After hearing a certain story from the neighbor, I trembled with anger. 2 hours later, I received a barrage of phone calls from my daughter-in-law after she saw the note, saying, "You took our daughter without permission." I'm sorry. I happened to meet Mary at the park, so I brought her home. I intentionally played dumb and apologized.
Taking her your home without permission is rude.
I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to worry you. But since it's been a while, can you let her stay with us for 2 or 3 days? Please. I'll make sure to thank Kate generously.
Huh? If that's the case, I don't mind, but there's one promise.
Her proposal was,
Since Mary has a habit of lying, please don't believe anything she says.
I already knew the truth of the matter, but without letting on, I went along with her to reassure her. It's common for young children to do that. Understood. I'll just let Mary's words go in one ear and out the other. 3 days later, my daughter-in-law came to pick up Mary.
John is supposed to come home for the weekend. I need Mary to help with cleaning, so I've come to pick her up. Give her back.
I won't return her to a mother who deceives your own child. At that, my daughter-in-law raised her eyebrows and glared at me.
I don't know what you've heard from Mary, but didn't I tell you that she was a liar? It's absurd to believe everything a child says.
Finally, Kate's true colors began to show. It seemed she intended to dismiss everything as lies from Mary. However, upon hearing those words in the living room, my granddaughter burst out crying and ran out.
I'm not lying. I was worried about Mama.
Seeing my crying granddaughter was heartbreaking. Not wanting to witness further arguments between adults, I asked my sister, who was at our house, to take Mary to the detached room. Then, I confronted Kate once again. I showed the pictures I had taken while hiding in my son's neighbor's house when I went there. They depicted Kate in intimate poses with a young man, and another where she was slipping wads of cash into his pocket. Kate's expression changed for a moment, but then she burst into laughter.
It was just a little fun. John is under my thumb, so I can manipulate him any way I want. If you keep this up, you'll never see your grandchild again.
Furthermore, I shared what I had heard from the neighbor. She said,
It might be meddling, but I can't bear to see your granddaughter in such a situation.
Kate, it seems you've been leaving Mary outside and frequently bringing young men into the house, right? The neighbors have noticed.
What? I have no idea what you're talking about.
Kate tried to play it off, but the neighbor had also taken videos and photos of her with her lover. According to the conversations in those videos, Kate had lied about her health to spend time with her lover, and she had cleverly concocted excuses like going to look for food to keep Mary from coming home. I'll tell everything to John, I declared. Yet Kate continued to laugh.
I've already told John that I'm being bullied by you, so he doesn't trust you. It's pointless to tell him anything. I'll just cry and tell him that you're lying.
Finally, I understood why my son had turned cold towards me. It was all Kate's doing. At that moment, a figure emerged from the neighboring room with a furious expression.
Kate, You were deceiving me, weren't you?
No way! Why are you here?
As it turned out, it was my son who, upon hearing my plea, took leave from his assignment and came home, thinking it was another case of marital abuse. However, he realized the truth from the evidence photos and his daughter's testimony.
It's all your mother's fabrication. Don't believe those photos, they're fake.
Are you saying Mary's lying too? I trust my daughter's word over yours.
But
Although I hadn't been informed, my son had a change of heart after his child was born. He said he had worked day and night at his assignment to increase his income and sent substantial amounts of money for living expenses. Kate couldn't have been short of money. She had spent all the money she received from John and the allowances I sent on her young lover. Finally, John realized he had been fed lies by his wife about being mistreated.
Mom, I'm sorry for all the terrible things I've said.
It's okay if you understand. Then, my son decisively announced divorce to Kate. Realizing she had no way out, Kate instantly apologized to me and began to beg for forgiveness.
Mother-in-law, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I was just lonely without John. Please ask him to reconsider the divorce for the sake of our daughter.
I may forgive what you've done to me, but I'll never forgive you for what you've done to my precious granddaughter.
But even after all this apologizing,
Apologies don't make everything okay. My son and I looked down coldly on Kate as she broke down in tears right then and there. Afterwards, evidence of her infidelity came to light, and she was divorced from John, who demanded $20,000 in alimony and $50,000 in child support. Kate, who had hoped for reconciliation, borrowed money from a loan shark to make the payments. Furthermore, John was furious upon seeing Mary's emaciated state and reported it to the police. Kate was taken into custody by the police and received a severe reprimand. It was discovered that Kate had met the young man she was having an affair with at a bar and had been supporting him financially. However, when the money ran out, she was quickly discarded. While I know she was being chased by debt collectors, her whereabouts afterwards are unknown. John also demanded $20,000 in alimony from Kate's affair partner. He too borrowed money to make the payment and is currently working day and night as a day laborer. Now, my son has returned from his assignment and is living with Mary and me at my house. A new life with my granddaughter, son, and me has begun. With more smiles from my granddaughter, I'm enjoying peaceful days. How did you find this story? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Well then, let's meet again in the next video.